Hi, everyone. Welcome to Higher Journeys. I am your host, Alexis Brooks. And of course, if it is your first time here, I welcome you. Well, my guest for today, Ms. PMH Atwater, a longtime and frequent guest of the show, will be joining us shortly to talk about Mercury retrograde. That I call it ominous and unauspicious time that we tend to hit about 3 times a year we're in right now. But I wanted to talk to PMH not about what we should not be doing, some of the things that we hear more about, but some of the things that we can do, some of the um, parts of life that we can put into action during a retrograde period to help us along the way. Now, I want to say that as is classic of Mercury retrograde, this interview, in terms of the visual and even the audio experience, is a bit wonky, just typical to Mercury retrograde. We had the audio was off, delayed. Her video was coming through blurry, so I'm probably going to have to just put up a screenshot in post production of her or an image of PMH. But the content was fantastic, as usually is. We did a lot of laughing, had to, because of all the glitches that happened prior to us pressing record, and we did get through it. So bear with us. But let's take in some of what PMH has to say. She's got plenty to share, as she always does. And let's see what we can do to harness this incredibly wonky, otherwise wonky time of year, Mercury retrograde. Here we go. Right now on Higher Journeys with Alexis Brooks. I'm going to start this episode of Higher Journeys, everyone, off with a chuckle because yes, PMH Atwater, we're being really silly. PMH Atwater is here, everyone, and we came on this show today to discuss one thing and one thing only, and that has to do with things that you should be doing during a Mercury retrograde. Well, I got to tell you, Mercury's like, no, you're not. I'm going to show you what you shouldn't be doing. Guys, it took us almost 20 minutes to get the tech right on this episode. The sound didn't work. As you can see, PMH is a little out of focus, but as long as we can hear her beautiful voice and her message, please indulge us and deal with. We're just having typical MR, that would be Mercury retrograde stuff going on. PMH, how are you besides
I'm great.
what do you say? What do you say? Mercury retrograde is having a little bit of a laugh right now, but we are seriously, guys, going to be talking about things that we can do, things how we can harness this non-auspicious time of year, this otherwise ominous time of year, because it is powerful. Look at case in point. I'm not going to go through all the things that have kind of been off kilter in the last several days for me and others or you. But we're going to talk about PMH because she's an expert, by the way, in this area. She's not only a near death experiencer 3 times over, a multi best-selling author. She is probably one of the most fascinating and amazing astrologers I know, and I mean that, PMH. You are really gifted in this area. Oh dear, tell us what is going on right now with Mercury retrograde. Let's talk about the intensity of it. Are we still in a Pluto return, by the way?
Yes, big one.
What does that mean for those that may not know how that would
If we're
double
talking
down?
about if we're talking about a Pluto return, we're talking about something that happens about oh, every 240 some years. So obviously people don't have them. Only things like a country does. And the United States is undergoing its Pluto return in its chart. It will not end until 2024. It means that our entire government, our country, our people are changing utterly, changing in ways that could alter our form of government, could alter the way we relate to each other, could alter our people, um, the way we do business, the way we live. And that's exactly what's playing out on our television sets and in our lives right now.
Mm-hmm.
So this is big. This is not a retrograde. This is Pluto in the United States chart. So it won't end for quite a while.
Mm-hmm. And it
This is
started when? It started when?
It started in 2020. It will not end in 2024, which interestingly is our presidential election.
Mm-hmm.
We elected Biden in 20. We're stuck with him for good or ill. He just signed on to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
And who knows,
Who
how
knows?
the elections are going to turn out.
Right. Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to focus this conversation because we're keeping this on the up and up, y'all. I don't care what Mercury retrograde thinks it's going to do. We're going to keep this on the up and up because I am determined, PMH Atwater, that when something, even though it is an optical illusion, yes, when something this strong and this intense, I think is probably the right word, happens, it's like anything, fire can burn you or keep you warm. Water can quench your thirst or drown you. Powerful elements. This is a powerful element. It's a powerful energetic cycle that I'm convinced can be harnessed for our individual and collective good. So I want to pivot real quick to that and stay there. I promise you, journeyers, you're going to come away with some takeaways that you can use. So let's start with, I want to bring up we've talked about this before. We've done a couple of shows on during the retrograde, on retrograde. And I remember you telling the story about a nephew of yours who took a big job at the time during a retrograde and had this sort of trajectory of success that followed. And you kind of assigned it to something that, to the fact that it was retrograde. Tell us about that again. Go into that a little bit.
Yes, this is, uh, yes, I had a relative that took a great job under a retrograde, and I was just kind of holding my breath, wondering about this. It turned, of course. It turned around, of course. But in his case, he bought out a company he was working for, started his own company, and became. He did very well.
Mm.
Um, he profited from what he learned during the retrograde period, and then after the retrograde was over, he bought the company.
So
He
he
did very
took wow. So he took the
well
job during the retrograde and then bought it out during another retrograde period?
to learn it and to learn how it worked. Then when the retrograde period was over, he took what he learned and bought out the company.
Mhm. Wow.
So
Yeah.
let's focus right now on what we mean by retrograde. All planets go retrograde in their cycle. It simply means that the appearances seem to be backward. It seems like whatever planet seems to be going backward in its motion. It's not. It's because it's how the planet Earth orbits and other planets orbit. There are periods of time when in our orbit it seems like what we're looking at is going backward when it's not really. Backward motion is confusion. It causes delays because our timing is off. That's all it means. The original rhythm is somehow off. And it confuses us. So it appears like things are going backward when they're not. So when we're talking about Mercury, that's the closest planet to our planet. So we feel it very strongly when Mercury goes uh, um, when it goes into retrograde motion. We feel it right away. It lasts about, I think, something about 28 days. So whenever Mercury appears to be going backward, everything concerning communication, movement, everyday things that we do, things that we take for granted, seem somehow not to work right. Um, it's it's sudden delays. Um, there's confusion. Our timing is off. Somehow things don't work right. What I tell people is if you're going to divorce something or end something, Mercury retrograde is perfect. If you're going to get married, which is a start of something, don't do it under retrograde Mercury. That's a lousy time to get married, a wonderful time to get divorced. Um, so, let me give you an example yesterday. Um, I was being busy around my computer, and suddenly I tipped over my water, and it flowed all over everything. I had an absolute mess. I never tip over my water, but I tipped it over. Things like that happen all the time under retrograde Mercury. Um, my husband, who starts up Red Cross blood drives yesterday, all of a sudden, it's all planned. People are going to come. Everybody is ready, and all of a sudden, the person sponsoring the drive calls up and says, "I changed my mind.
Mm.
We're not going to do it." Well, Terry, Terry goes ballistic. Yeah, I mean, the crews are coming. Everybody's planning to come, and suddenly the host says, "No, I've changed my mind." That's retrograde Mercury.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay.
Um, you can have a car accident. You're changing your mind about all things. Suddenly, um, everything around you seems to be operating at a different tempo.
Yeah, I get that. Okay. So we've gone into that down that
Different.
road before. I want and as listen, I'm going to apologize. You know, we may need to do an audio version of this, guys. I'm not sure yet because typical, like Exhibit A of what PMH is talking about, your voice is delayed probably 2 seconds, maybe even just a second, but enough. You're blurry. It's just not. It's not working, and I've got to laugh because it's just so typical of what this is all about. Yeah. Yeah, so but it's okay.
Oh,
Okay, look, so again, I want to take this opportunity to pivot toward how we can I wanna say harness the intensity of what this is, but things that we can be doing that can catapult us into a better position, particularly once we're out of retrograde. I really wanna focus on this. I actually did a little bit of research and I didn't find too much. But if anyone has the answer, PMH, I know you do. How can we make Mercury retrograde work for us?
well, number one, it happens 3 times a year, so we know it's going to happen. Number two, when things go screwy and things um, things seem not to be working right, bless them, bless yourself, and start laughing.
I love it.
Okay. We're in Mercury retrograde. Let's slow down. Let's realize that getting angry isn't going to get you anywhere. Give yourself more time. Realize that it's okay to be late. It's okay not to have things work out the way you want. Always have a backup plan. If you're in a big hurry and the lights are against you, you're in your car, just smile and say, it's okay. It's all right. Don't tense up. Don't get angry. Don't have a fit. It's all right. And flow through it. Again, when a person starts a job under retrograde Mercury, that job's not going to last. This is not going to last. And
In
it's
every
over.
case, well, let me stop you there. In every case, PMH, that can't be the case all the time. But would you say the likelihood of it not lasting, or
The likelihood of it not lasting is there. And realize that you're there to learn something, that it's okay. Maybe you're going to get a raise. Maybe somehow you're going to get promoted out of there. Somehow you're going to find something better. If the job ends, that's okay. You learn something. You can go from that on to something else. A chiropractor friend of mine used this time to start a new practice. That is to say, moved into a new building, retrograde Mercury. And in his case, because he knew retrogrades, he knew it was okay for him to move in. He was just really calm and cool and collected. When the retrograde was over, then he flooded his patients, the city, everywhere, and introduced himself and say, "Come." And it worked out okay for him. And it worked out even better for him because it gave him that interim time to make sure everything was where it needed to be. Everything was what he wanted. And then when the retrograde was over, he advertised. And it
so
worked out perfect for him.
So he went into this with an understanding of the retrograde and the typical ramifications, but having a very conscious mindset about it. He used it as sort of a ramp up, even though he occupied the building during the retrograde. He used it as a ramp up. So again, it's the mindset, it seems,
Yeah.
that's pivoting the outcome when you are blindsided and not aware.
Yeah, he got used to it. His client base realized that he had moved and that it was okay. And then after it went direct, then he just flooded everybody with all kinds of advertising and photographs. And here I am. I'm ready for you. Come. and it
Love it.
worked wonderful.
I love it. Okay,
But
well, that's
again,
something that we can
again,
put on our
again, and
list.
again for everybody, don't marry under retrograde Mercury.
Okay,
Don't
so okay, we're talking
it
about what we're supposed to be doing, remember. Okay. Well, let me ask you this. Let's say somebody got laid off during a Mercury retrograde. How would you look at that?
I would tell him to look around as much as he can, try everything he can elsewhere, looking about different jobs, different places, different people. Use that time to his benefit
Mhm.
to explore. Wonderful time to explore.
Mhm. But I'm asking
Lots
when I'm at I
lots of
agree with you, but what I'm asking is the timing of being laid off. Looking at everything as sort of synchronistic and timing being of essence. Would that be because it was an ending, even though he didn't initiate the ending, as an example?
Yeah, he got surprised.
Mhm.
"Whoops, my job is gone."
Mhm.
So use that time to sort of recover and, plan something new.
Mhm.
And then when
Absolutely.
the retrograde is over, then go full bore
Mhm.
into something.
What about people who
Say
are
to
I'm sorry.
yourself, "Well, that's good at all."
We're losing you, PMH. I
"Oh,
can't
I'm
hear you
here
too well.
now.
This
I'm
is
here now."
okay. This is such a typical having an interview during a retrograde. I cannot emphasize this enough. It's almost magical. Exhibit A, guys. I'm going to apologize again. I hope we can get through this. At this point, I'm definitely at least going to put up probably
Well,
a
this is
picture of
a demonstration.
it's
This
a
is a
demonstration.
demonstration. Use it positively,
I'm
Alexis.
laughing. I'm laughing. It's
This is a
making me
theatrical demonstration of Mercury retrograde.
yeah, exhibit A.
We go
So,
in and
he
out.
this is one of those days, but we're gonna get this done. You know, you and I talked about once people who are born under a Mercury retrograde. I believe you are a case in point, and I am a case in point. There are a lot of people not aware that they may have been born during a Mercury retrograde. Let's talk about those people. Number one, how does this impact their lives? And obviously there's variations, but number two, how would an individual born under a retrograde fare with other retrogrades, subsequent retrogrades? Do they have a different sort of response or interaction with it than perhaps somebody
Longer
else?
to learn things. Takes them longer to learn things. They may have problems in school and learning things, and I did indeed. I did indeed. Um, I um, I had all kinds of problems with the first grade and in learning things. And in my case, get my book.
We're going to talk about
Edgewa
that.
Edgewalker. But I don't care who the kid is. Yeah, um, it's going to take you longer to learn, or there may be more difficulties in the learning. Maybe something to do with the teacher or the place, or somehow the learning dynamic is different for you, or somehow um, it takes more time, or uh, you need to learn it differently,
Mhm.
or you do it differently.
Or you do it differently. Well,
You do it differently.
beside learning, what other elements of or experiences of life might someone go through who was born under a retrograde beyond the learning? What about relationships and other aspects of life?
Well, I had 5 fathers and 2 mothers. In my case. And of course, in my case, there was Pearl Harbor. So this just, I mean, my first grade was Pearl Harbor. So it just took my learning and turned it upside down.
Mhm.
Because I was dealing with death all the time. All around me was death.
Mhm.
So there will be something either in your family or something in regards to the way you speak or the way you're able to learn that will be different. And somehow that learning will be slower or again, very different. And
Different.
in my case, it was radical, but maybe in your case, you can speak to that. Somehow your learning experience was different from others.
Mhm. I would definitely say so. Well, for one thing, and I don't wanna get into your experience and my experience, I just wanna kinda look in at the general picture. But I will say for me, I'm self-taught in many disciplines. If that would be a different sort of
Mm.
scenario. I was challenged, I would say, in traditional class setting, but would go home and just learn it on my own, whatever it might
Yeah,
be.
right.
So, yeah, okay.
And
So the second part of my question, PMH, the second part of my question is, as we go through life, we always have this, a aspect of us that we were born under a retrograde throughout our lives. As we confront other retrogrades, would someone born under a retrograde react differently to subsequent retrogrades? Like right now. Do you understand the question?
well, I I took more time to make notes.
Mhm. Okay, so
That's
maybe
why I'm laughing with you.
but that's not the question. Maybe I can phrase it differently. The question is, energetically, individuals born under a retrograde, might they have a different interaction with retrogrades going forward in their life energetically?
Yes,
How so?
they certainly have with me. Um, for me, during retrogrades, I have learned to slow down and not to take things seriously, and that has been very, very helpful.
Mhm,
You just slow down and don't take things so seriously.
mhm. Well, that would apply for everybody. That would apply
Yes,
for everybody. That's what we're focusing on, but for those.
everybody, but if you were born with it, um, then that becomes even more special, even more important that you learn. I learned always to keep notes and to always be prepared.
Mhm, absolutely. Wow.
And yeah, and I learned to laugh a lot.
You gotta do
Because
that in any case, particularly
I
with
just
how crazy
laugh a
this
lot.
world is. You gotta laugh, gotta laugh. Let's talk about your book. Well, there are a couple things I wanna talk about. Guys, I gotta bring this up now. As wonky as this particular episode is, which I hope you're actually getting a giggle out of it because it's kind of fun, actually, and PMH is one of our favorite guests. Um, PMH was one of our, I have to say, top workshops that we have held over at the Conscious Academy, Higher Journeys Conscious Academy. PMH, you did a what job, a kick butt job when you did grounding your power through the physical body. Ground your power through the physical body to get on the high ascension path. That is, by the way, a workshop and amazing presentation that's still available over on the Conscious Academy. Of course, we'll have a link, but I as I was looking through some of the workshop. I listened to some of the workshop or watched it just recently, and I thought this is also applicable. The way you talk about how we leverage, if you will, our physical body in order to ground ourselves as we're going through this amazing shift that includes the Pluto return, that includes these ongoing retrogrades that are becoming more intense. Wouldn't you say that that approach is applicable to what we're talking about today? The physical body. How can we use the physical body to really, really help us navigate this wonky period?
Absolutely. Use your body. That's what I learned. Get out of your head and use your body. Whenever I get confused, I immediately stop, stand still, put my arms down to the side, and just breathe. That's simple. I'm in erect posture and I'm just breathing. Then I swallow. That
Mm,
clears up the brain.
mhm.
Yep, that's all you have to do. Simple.
Yeah,
Make
yeah.
it simple.
And do it often because I think that this state of confusion and just sort of lethargy even at times that people are having with all that's going on right now, this is essential, but believe me, ground your power is so much more than that. We went about 3 hours, I think, for that workshop, PMH, and you had a whole bunch of exercises that people, could do, to help them, navigate this period. So I do recommend ground your power to navigate the planetary shift. Now
Planted.
I wanna talk about another book. PMH, what book is this? How many books is this now? That's
19.
how many?
19.
Wowee, 19.
What
The book is c
9?
wow. The book is called Edgewalker: The Many Lives and Deaths of PMH Atwater. That's coming out, interestingly, on my birthday, May 28th. It's coming out
Well,
soon.
actually May 26th.
Oh,
It's a
okay. Well,
that's okay.
that's okay. Tell us about that as we close out and go on over to Patreon for the after show. What's happening with Edgewalker? Why Edgewalker?
Um, it is a memoir autobiography. Please bear in mind that I'm a researcher. So, I don't do these kind of books. I don't even read these kind of books. I, um, I'm not interested in these kind of books, but I had to do it. And Ken Rain, a colleague of mine, said, "We know about your research. That is to say, I'm one of the best known researchers in the field of near-death studies and in spiritual transformations. My research base is nearly 5,000 adults and children, um, um, 18 books on or nearly on that subject. So, so I'm to do a memoir autobiography? You gotta be kidding. I mean, I don't write those kind of books. And Ken said, "We know about your research. We want to know about you." And for me, that was just like a bomb going off. I mean, how do I write about me? So I did what Ken said. I began at the beginning with my birth, and my birth was very different. And I was raised by, you know, five fathers and two mothers during a time of World War II, during a time of Hitler, and the bombing of our fleet in Hawaii, Pearl Harbor. And so, and, you know, I was raised by Norwegians in the reclaimed deserts of southern Idaho. Figure that one out. Very, very different. Grew up thinking I was Norwegian, and I wasn't. And married very young, had 3 children. And one thing after another happened, big things. And became a professional writer. Set my handwriting off to a sheriff's deputy. He wanted, samples of handwriting. So I sent mine off to him. 2 months later, I got the answer back. He could even tell the kind of food I liked from my handwriting. Can you imagine that? And he was correct.
Wow.
And he said, "You're in the wrong job. You should be a writer." What? I'm in the wrong job. I should be a writer. So I did. I just copied a paragraph out of the telephone, out of a telephone book. Sent it to him. He said, "You should be a writer. I don't know anything about writing." So the third person I stopped, literally, I went outside and stopped people on the street. I did that. And the third person I stopped said, "Well, I know the president of the local the Writers League." And so she gave me that person's name, called them, went to a meeting, and I felt like I'd left the planet. I did. People in there were creative and laughing.
And so a legend was born. A legend was born.
Then I died.
Wow. And then you died 3 times. 3 times. Don't give the whole book away, PMH. Let people come get it and read your story, because I know you're such a brilliant writer, and you do have a gift for telling stories of yourself and now yourself and of course others. PMH, we're running out of time, my dear. So I want to remind everyone to go to PMH Water. Can't even say it. PMH Atwater's website, which is
www.pmhatwater.com.
easy.
And sign up for my my free newsletter,
which is fabulous.
Yeah, it comes out every month, of course, and there's always surprises, always.
And
Yes.
it's good. You cover it edge to edge. She is an Edgewalker for sure. PMH, we always appreciate your presence, and even during this relatively wonky time, it's a treat. So with that, I'm going to say thank you for coming back. Enjoy the rest of your MR. We call Mercury Retrograde MR for short.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And we will talk to you all very, very soon. I promise you that. Okay. Take good care.
Bye-bye.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to watch what's next, plus more to explore. And don't forget to subscribe to Higher Journeys.